Good morning, class. Today we'll be talking about identifying pairs of lines and angles. What we will be doing here is we'll be looking at how lines can interact with each other, intersecting, parallel, skew, all these different types of words, and then also what happens when we have angles formed by the intersection of lines in a plane. If you notice that there is a quote, when I put these quotes in here, I hope that you actually reflect on them a little bit and think of how they apply to you. I actually snuck in one that's kind of a tribute to my dad. He always said it. However, I did see that it's part of a Marilyn Monroe quote also. The goal for today, again, you will learn different ways lines can interact with each other, both in the same plane, coplanar, or not in the same plane, non-coplanar. You should also learn what a transversal is and the different types of angles formed by what a transversal is. Alright, the first two things I want to talk about are parallel and skew. Parallel lines never intersect. Skew lines never intersect. So I have two things that are basically the same thing, they never intersect. Well, the big difference between the two is that parallel lines never intersect and are coplanar, but skew lines never intersect and are non-coplanar. That means parallel lines will be on the same plane and they will never intersect. Skew lines never intersect different planes. If I look down here, lines L and K will be parallel because they're on the same plane, thus green. You'll see shortly in the next slide an example of skew lines. In fact, let's go to the next slide real quickly here. In this picture here, what you see is plane R and plane S. With plane R, I have two lines in it, line AB here and line DE. These two will eventually intersect if I would continue the lines because they're on the same plane. They either are parallel or they intersect if they're on the same plane. However, if I look at something that is on a different plane, for instance, this is technically segment IK here. However, I'm going to say line IK and just pretend that we have extended it. Line IK and line DE, again we're pretending we're extending line DE, will never intersect. They're on different planes. It's as if I drew two different lines on two different pieces of paper, and those two lines won't cross where the papers meet. Same idea here. These two lines will never cross, ever. Line DE and line IK. No matter how far I extend them, they will never cross. Just like line AB here and like line FG. They're on different planes, and they're not going to cross. These lines are called skew. Line AB and line FG are skew, don't cross, and they aren't on the same plane. Going back to the last slide, parallel planes are planes just like parallel lines. They never intersect. So parallel planes, always the same distance apart no matter where we look at them. And last but not least, perpendicular lines. You saw this back in chapter 1 that perpendicular lines are lines that intersect at a right angle. The symbol that we use for a right angle is this one here. This box type symbol. That tells me it's perpendicular. This symbol here, this extra arrow in the middle, and the arrow on this line, tell me that those two lines are parallel. I would write that as line L is parallel. Two vertical dashes represents parallel. So line L is parallel to line K. And line N is perpendicular to line M. These two are perpendicular. That's a symbol for perpendicular. These two, line L and K, are parallel. That's a symbol for parallel. There's two postulates that come about because of parallel and perpendicular lines. If I would draw a point, and I would draw a line, there is only one possible line that I could draw through the point that is parallel to my given line. Same thing with the perpendicular postulate. If I have a point and a line, there's only one line that can be drawn through that point that's perpendicular. This ends up being postulate 13 and 14, but remember, again, I don't care so much about the number. Look at the name of the postulate, parallel postulate and perpendicular postulate. So, right now, you should be able to tell me what are the three different names for the interactions of lines. Try your best to answer it. You should have given me skew, parallel, and just the intersection. If I have a point and a line, how many lines could I draw through the point that would be parallel to my given line? Try your best to answer it. If we go back to the parallel postulate here, if I have a point and a line, there's only one line I can draw through the point that will be parallel to my line. So only one. The last one, whoops. Two lines in a plane either intersect or are parallel. That is a true statement. If they're in the same plane, they have to intersect or they have to be parallel. That's it. If they are not in the same plane, that's where we get that third option. They could be skew. At this point, you should be able to do examples 1 and 2 on the next video. I won't be doing them just yet, but they'll be on the next video. The next thing we are going to be talking about, the other half of section 1, is what we call transversals. A transversal is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at different points. So if I look at the left intersections here, this line right here is a transversal because it intersects the top line here and this bottom line at two distinctly different points. This line is a transversal because it crosses two or more lines at different points. Over here, while this line here does cross both of the other two lines at this point, it's not considered a transversal because those points that it crosses at are the same point. There's no transversals over here, and this is the only transversal over here. Alright, corresponding angles are angles that are on the same side of the transversal and in the same corresponding position. So for instance, this is my only transversal right here, this almost vertical line. And angle 1 here, this angle formed, and this angle formed, is on the same side of the transversal and on top of the line. So this location and this location will be called corresponding because they're in the same location of the intersection, the upper left. So 1 and 2 here would be corresponding angles. There's other corresponding angles here. Try and identify another pair. Another pair that you might see here would be this spot and this spot. I believe I labeled them angle 3 and angle 4. Another one would be this spot and this spot. I really should be saying this angle and this angle. However, I did not label those 5 and 6. Then there would also be this angle here and this angle here. Those would all be corresponding. So there's actually 4 pairs when there's a transversal. Alternate interior angles are angles that are on opposite sides of the transversal and between the two lines. Alternate, opposite sides of the transversal. Interior, between my two lines. So right here, this transversal, opposite sides would be like 1 and 2 here. Between the transversal here, this is what we call, between these lines, this is what we call the interior. So all 4 angles here, 1, 2, 3, 4, would all be interior. Alternate interior just means opposite sides. So 3 and 4 would be another pair of alternate interior, just like 1 and 2 were. The next one is alternate exterior angles. So if between the two lines were interior, well then outside of the two lines is what I call exterior. Angle 1 and angle 2 are alternate, opposite sides of my transversal. One's on this side and one's on the other side. Sorry, 1 is on this side, 2 is on this side. So that's alternate, and they're both outside of my two lines, so they're exterior. Angle 3 and angle 4 are also alternate exterior angles. Consecutive interior, well, interior again is between the two lines. Consecutive now means same side of the transversal. So angle 1 and angle 2 here are same side of the transversal and on the interior, consecutive interior angles. Angle 3 and angle 4 is also another pair. At this point, you should know the different ways lines can interact with each other. That's the skew, parallel, and intersection. You should also know what a transversal is and the 4 different types of angles. You will see the transversal questions examples are examples 3 and 4 in the other video. Till next time.